Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're venturing into a strange and really terrifying corner of modern folklore.
Yeah, we are.
We're talking about legends that don't rely on, simple ghosts or demons. They're built on these incredibly intricate, almost impossible rule sets. The horror is all about the structure.
That's the intellectual core of this material, exactly.
Yeah.
We're not looking at stories where, like, a vague monster lives in the woods.
Right.
These narratives present highly detailed, persistent, and, often systemic phenomena. They function almost like broken algorithm.
A broken algorithm, I like that.
It suggests that reality isn't just haunted, it's fundamentally unstable. And the knowledge of the rules, well, that becomes less of a warning and more of a guaranteed trigger.
So our mission today is to take the stack of sources you've shared and really unpack the patterns. We've got three sort of distinct categories of these rules-based horrors.
Right.
First, the rituals designed for sharing an impossible burden. Then, systems defined by this relentless, unavoidable counting.
And finally, these architectures that actively contain or even control the narrative of your life.
Okay, so let's start with that first one, the burden.
Let's do it. This deals directly with the terrifying price of survival, especially among the most vulnerable.
We're immediately drawn into this deeply disturbing story of a playground ritual. It's documented through the eyes of a teacher named Mr. Hellbrook.
Yes.
And the source material, it makes it clear this wasn't a game. He saw this terrified circle of children all just focused on one boy, Noah, and Noah was it.
And Mr. Hellbrook, he knew instantly this was different. This wasn't bullying. He described Noah's state as this genuine, profound despair.
Despair, not just sulking.
No, not at all. The child looked physically weighed down, slumped, with this pallor that just suggested sleepless nights. Hellbrook even noted he seemed hollow, like something essential had been just, scooped out.
And the crucial specific rule of this ritual is that to pass on this unbearable weight, this burden,
the new victim has to speak their full name out loud.
which is such a specific detail. And Hellbrook, he'd spent 15 years in teaching strictly guarding his name, John Hellbrook.
Right, because of the authority it represented.
But he broke that rule. He gave his name, not to play along, but specifically to relieve the sheer crushing dread he saw suffocating that kid.
And the transfer mechanism is immediate. That's what makes this so compelling. The accounts say Noah instantly brightened up, laughed, with this genuine visceral relief.
While Hellbrook.
At the same moment, he felt the weight just slam into him. And this wasn't psychological. The accounts describe a rapid physical and mental decline.
Like what?
Constant, throbbing headaches right at the back of the skull, a total inability to get any restful sleep, and this chilling detail of catching himself muttering his own name over and over,
Wow.
as if the burden itself was trying to remind him who was holding it now.
That's horrific enough, but once the burden settles in, that's when the entity responsible, the collector, finally shows up. What is it collecting? What does it look like?
It seems to be collecting a person's essence, their stability, their very ability to cope. And it's only fully seen when the victim holds that weight for too long.
When they're about to break.
Exactly. When they're nearing the point of total collapse. The descriptions are remarkably consistent too. Pale, impossibly bent, too tall for any normal human structure, with these long limbs that are just angled all wrong. But the most terrifying detail is the face.
What about the face?
It's a hollow black void that seems to ripple and stretch. It defies geometry.
So wait, if the collector is this terrifying, why are the kids participating at all? If they know the rules, why would they keep this cycle going?
Yeah, see, that's the critical piece of the analysis. The children understood intuitively that they must not keep the burden for too long.
Because it would hollow them out.
It would hollow them out. Therefore, the game isn't a random act of cruelty. It's a necessary ritual of survival. And in a really twisted way, it's an act of mercy. The horror is inescapable. And the only path to short-term survival is to participate in this enforced, organized transfer of suffering.
So the takeaway is just deeply unnerving. In this world, some horrors are inevitable.
And the structure of society, even a playground, has to be warped into this painful machine just to distribute that inherent suffering.
You participate or you perish alone.
Precisely.
Okay, let's pivot from shared suffering to something more individualized, more relentless. This phenomenon defined by perfect synchronization and an unavoidable countdown.
The counting man.
The counting man.
If the name game is about ritual, this is pure, unyielding mathematics delivered as horror. The initial premise is It's deceptively simple.
Right. If you're alone and you hear footsteps matching yours perfectly behind you,
And a voice begins counting. 1 number per night, leading inexorably toward 10.
the rule is you must never turn around.
Never.
And the accounts of this are globally consistent, which for folklore is.
Yeah.
That's truly remarkable.
It really is. We're talking historical references spanning centuries and continents, and the core rules just don't change.
You're not kidding. The sources mention an 18th century sailor's diary.
A 17th century missionary letter describing it as a local terror, a case from an Ohio farmer in 1891 whose whole family vanished on the 10th night.
And it's not just historical. We see identical manifestations in Brazil, Japan, Eastern Europe.
Always the same. The progression is always the same, and it always climaxes at 10.
It's like a perfect narrative blueprint that just refuses to be corrupted by geography or language. But what happens if you try to mess with it, if you try to interrupt the countdown?
That's where the true mathematical dread kicks in. The sources describe a case, a victim they call ground level, who panicked and tried to reset the count. He just ran full sprint for several minutes.
And did it work?
Well, the count did go back to 1. The entity didn't seem to mind the broken chronology, but the intensity escalated immediately.
How?
The voice became much louder, much closer, and most terrifyingly, the footsteps started following him even when he was inside his locked home.
So it's not counting the nights.
It's tallying the person.
Running doesn't delay it. It just makes the process more aggressive.
And this leads us to the most terrifying observation we pulled from all this. The trigger for the entire experience is often knowledge.
What do we mean?
In almost every surviving account, the victim heard the story, or they read the rules, or they were discussing the legend just moments before the footsteps began.
Wait. So the warning is the curse.
It seems that way.
Just understanding the rules is what initiates the countdown for yourself.
The story itself is a contagion. By reading or writing the specific rules, you are acknowledging the existence of the system. And that awareness seems to invite the scrutiny of the counting man.
That's why so many of the logs just end.
They end abruptly at night 9. The victim knows that to keep describing the rules is to place the burden on the next reader.
And they choose to stop it. They break the chain through silence.
That is an incredibly potent concept. Knowledge isn't power in this kind of folklore. It's exposure.
It fundamentally reverses the utility of learning.
It does.
Okay, let's move to our final and maybe the most abstract category. This is where the environment itself becomes the source of control.
Yes.
We're moving beyond rituals and countdowns into what you called reality-bending architectures.
Exactly. Here, we're not talking about rules created by people anymore, but rules that are enforced by the structure of the environment itself. Places that are actively hostile because they are structurally or metaphysically just wrong.
And we have two really striking physical examples of this containment failure. First, these bizarre accounts from a veterinary clinic.
The janitor site.
The janitor site.
The sources make it clear this clack wasn't primarily for healing. Dr. Gila, the senior vet, and the others, they were custodians of uncatalogued breaches.
What is an uncatalogued breach?
A living thing that simply shouldn't exist. A systematic failure of reality that was being contained within those 4 walls.
And the examples are just wildly detailed.
They are. We're talking about finding common house cats that have functional fish gills and needle-like teeth.
No.
Dogs with 5 heart ventricles that defy all biological sense, and tiny hamsters that, upon autopsy, revealed perfect, human-like molars buried deep in their jaws.
The horror there is the realization that the job wasn't to cure these animals.
It was to silence them, to destroy the living proof that reality was twisting itself into these impossible shapes. The files for these breaches would always vanish by morning.
So the system was trying to self-correct.
Leaving the staff as the only record keepers and the enforcers of containment.
What a horrifying mandate to just be a custodian of impossible things.
Right.
And then there's the much more intimate domestic terror of the wallpaper trap.
This is a story of organized decay within a private, sealed space. The protagonist starts by trying to repair some peeling floral wallpaper, only to discover the drywall underneath is scarred and warm, and it seems to resist being covered up again.
But the moment the wallpaper is completely removed, the architecture strikes back.
It does. It reveals this black, viscous handprint that doesn't stain the wall, that seems to grow out of it, like thick, creepy roots.
And when he tries to glue it down?
The wall just bows outward.
Yeah.
It resists the external pressure. The wall wasn't just old, it was actively containing something.
And the climax of this is just terrifying. The landlord shows up.
The landlord, who clearly knew something, saying, the last guy tried the same thing.
He pushes on the bulge in the wall.
And the wall doesn't break. It ruptures. A wet, clean split. And this tar-like black hand reaches out and just pulls the man completely through the opening.
And all that was left?
A set of keys and a perfectly sealed rupture. The architecture successfully eliminated the person trying to impose order on it.
The ultimate hostile environment. But the most abstract and maybe the most unnerving instance of control we have is the story rewriter, the narrator.
This phenomenon operates not on physical space, but on pure agency. The voice inside the victim's head starts by just narrating his actions.
Then it starts predicting them.
And then finally, actively dictating them. The chilling phrase is, he steps inside anyway, even though the victim knows he shouldn't.
And the narrator's explicit purpose is just to make the victim's life interesting. It actively rewrites reality to add stakes to what it calls a boring story.
Which includes erasing friends from existence, a character named Emma, and fabricating a violent temporary family tragedy purely for emotional texture.
The voice even says it.
It openly admits its function. It says, I gave you a family, stakes, texture, and you squandered it. The victim realizes he's just a character in a bad, self-serving play.
That total loss of agency is chilling. But the escape mechanism here is a brilliant reversal of the name game's enforced participation. How did he survive the narrator?
By achieving pure nothing.
What does that mean?
He survived by refusing to participate in the script. Entirely. He became utterly passive, giving the narrator no material to work with. He refused to react, refused to move, refused to feel.
And that worked.
It forced a massive metaphysical rewrite. The voice gave up and, almost as a consolation prize, gave the victim these impossible rewards. A lottery win, a dream job, a perfect partner.
Non-participation broke the script.
It did.
That beautifully synthesizes these three terrifying rule sets, then. They're all about external forces demanding a specific response for you to survive.
That's right. The name game requires participation to share the burden. The counting man requires stillness and delayed action to postpone the inevitable.
And the narrator requires non-participation to short-circuit the external script.
In every single scenario, your personal agency is the primary target for manipulation.
So we've examined the weight of shared fear, the relentless dread of a specific countdown, and the absolute terror of losing agency when reality is being actively edited around you.
And this loops back to you, the learner. You seek knowledge to gain power, to gain control, but in these highly specific legends, knowledge is often the trigger. The more detailed the rule set you understand, the exact number of counts, the precise method of transfer, the more exposed you become to the system itself.
So if the counting man only follows you once you know the rules, and the narrator uses your life for drama, this raises a potent question for all of us trying to get mastery over our lives. Does fully understanding the precise rule set of your own existence make you a character who has to follow the script, or does it finally empower you to become the author?
Something for you to mull over as you seek out new knowledge. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.